Yes, thank you for being here. The housekeeping, have food and snacks whenever you want. The bathrooms are both down the hall and across, the little stair threshold towards the entrance. We're adults, so just get up when you need to and go out there, and we're not gonna have any breaks per se in the presentation. But I wanna know who's here. So how many folks are individual artists? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people are representing organizations? Wonderful. Now, what about art disciplines? Who is a visual artist here? Oh, great. And how many folks are performing artists? We've got like an even split here. And then how many folks are in like the literary arts? Anyone? Trying to think of all my other arts. Who's in another category? Okay, good. All right, well, so grateful that you're here. And like she said, we're gonna have more series of these throughout the new year. So we've got all kinds of interesting topics based on things that we heard from you that you wanted to hear about. I'm really honored to be able to introduce our speakers today. And I think they're really excited to be here, right? So Tally Services is an amazing asset here in town. Been honored to be able to work with them over the years, and they really, even though they're dealing with numbers, and we might not think of that as creative, it really is, and they are all supporters and really engaged the creative community too, so thank you. Now I'm gonna be boring and read their official bios. Here we go. All right, so our first presenters, we have two main presenters today. Beth Hutchinson, she is Fort Collins native. She came from a family of many entrepreneurs. Growing up, she lived all over the world as an Air Force brat, then permanently settled back in Fort Collins in 1989. She considers her early life instrumental in her love of many different walks of life. As founder and steward of Tally Services, she is incredibly proud of the Tally Rockstar team, who you're going to hear from today, with their diverse skills and expertise. She is most proud of the culture internally and externally of honoring people. And I will say that that's very true. They're an amazing group. Her focus is continuing to have Tally Services provide approachable services with a collaborative team that you always know is by your side. And then on a personal note, she enjoys travel, loves being outdoors, is a certified yoga instructor, and loves live music. So you might run into her at one of the local live music events. So we're super excited to have her come up. And we have Miss Kelly Forrester. Maybe it started when she was creating math worksheets with her little brother and her friends in elementary school, or maybe even earlier when she was watching Sesame Street or The Count. Wherever it started for Kelly, working for Tally Services in partnership with local small businesses and nonprofits just adds up. Yeah, get used to it. We're gonna have all kinds of jokes today, I bet. As bookkeeper and client services with Tally, Kelly believes that enthusiastic, trusting partnerships and communication with her clients is a key to the job well done. In her free time, Kelly enjoys spontaneous travel, challenging experiences like acting in local theater, film, and narrating audiobooks. She just had her film debut just like last week. Okay, ask her about it later. She's one of the most likely to accidentally serenade the office while jamming out to Broadway tunes in her earbuds. So, with not any more delay, I'd like to ask all the ladies to come up, and we want to start our presentation. So let's give it up for Tally Services. Back and Melody.
Sure. My name is Beth Hutchinson. I'm the owner. And I think what's important to share is kind of what brought me here. And that is that I first started working in CPA firms, and I could see business owners come in and they would be really intimidated, and the CPA would kind of, look over their glasses and have a patronizing way about them. And I thought, you know what, we can do so much better than that. And so that's part of why we even have our logo as a tally mark, because accounting really can be very simple. It doesn't have to be intimidating. And for me, it was really important to have a very approachable environment where people could come in and ask the questions, not feel intimidated, not feel scared about it. So that's part of what we've created. And and our team does a really good job with it.
I am Kelly Forster, and as Peg and yes, ma'am. I have been working with Tally for almost 7 years. My past, I have worked in different fields. I was a childbirth educator in town for 10 years. That also included being a doula. I was an office manager for both business and healthcare. And my tie to the creative side is not only the acting, audiobook creation. You will come to find out as I tell stories in our presentation that I was married to a self-employed artist and a local musician. So the stresses that came along with doing our own books are going to make an appearance in our talk. So hi, I'm Susie Murphy, and I'm a total numbers nerd. And like my husband and I laugh because we used to be cowboys, we used to be cool. And now he's an engineer and I'm an accountant, but something went really wrong along the way. But we still stay connected to our cool by spending a lot of time outside. We do wildlife photography. My focus is with wild horse photography, and we turned that into a little bit of a side business right now, and hoping to continue to learn and grow and have that help support some of our horse habits as we get a little older. So we can maybe do less accounting and engineering. And I've known Beth for years and years. We used to beat each other up on the soccer field and have connected with various businesses that we both worked in, or that I've worked in, that connected the Tally over the years. And I've now been with Tally for almost a year. So it's been a fantastic team. Happy to be here. So thank you for having us.
I'm Crystal Bernier. I've been with Tally, I think 7.5, 8 years, something like that. So I like to joke, my dad told me when I went to college, I should study accounting. It's really the type of person I am, very detailed, very, black and white. But I studied English, minored in creative writing, which is really kind of funny because I'm not super creative. So when the kids were at school, I went back to school, got my accounting certificate, and it was like, oh, okay, this is a much better fit. So I'm happy to be here. I like working for Tally and working for a vast array of clients because, it's kind of silly, but I feel like doing the clients' books and dabbling in different businesses and the different needs, I feel like that's how I get to know my clients. So I really enjoy what I do, and I'm happy to be here today for you all.
I'm super impressed that so many of you showed up for a presentation on bookkeeping. So thank you for taking the time out to be here. I want to take a minute and just go over briefly the things that we're going to touch on in our presentation and what we hope that you get out of it. The first piece is we're going to take a look at how you feel about your money. How do you feel about dealing with your money? We all have thoughts about money. So we're going to have you look at that just a little bit more closely, and then hopefully get you over to the other side and be a little bit more excited about how you can take charge of your financial situation in the arts. Then we're going to take a quick peek at whether you are a business or maybe you're just doing this as a hobby, and delve into that and maybe help you decide if you are or have been just doing this as a hobby, maybe there are some benefits to you operating as a business. So we'll take a little bit closer look at that as well. And then we'll get down to kind of the nitty-gritty and talk about income, what you want to track, what sources of money are coming in for you, why it might be important to track them separately as they come in, and then answer your questions about expenses. That are they a business expense or are they not? Then we're going to get personal. I don't want to look at your books, but you have a worksheet in front of you or in your packet that we will go ahead and have you fill out in an exercise as we go along. So you can have a little bit of an insight immediately into how you have spent and earned your money through the year. Then Beth will come back up after we do that and she will give you a little bit more of what you can do once you have those numbers, those solid numbers in hand. What story is that going to tell you so that you can make decisions? And then we'll get into best practices. You've got the numbers, you've got the story. Now what? How do we continue to take this forward the best way? And we do that with some of the tools of the trade that we're going to share with you. And of course, we're going to give you some time at the end for some question and answers. Okay. I'm going to have Beth come up and start with a prompt, which you've all had a chance to look at. So everybody get that in.
Yeah, because money can be such an emotional issue or an emotional experience for everybody. And like I described, just watching people just come in and kind of shrivel up and be so intimidated, we thought it would be good for everybody to kind of think about, and feel free to share what is maybe one word that would describe how you feel about money.
Ambivalent.
Okay. There's more than one person in the room. What else?
Phenomenal idea.
What's that? Great.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
To me, it's like that South Park episode where the elves were stealing underwear to make profit.
I didn't see it. Tell us about it.
They steal underwear, they make profit.
Okay.
Which is like to me.
Okay.
You don't know how they make profit
Okay.
by stealing underwear.
It happens. I think we're gonna cover that today.
I just put underwear in the list, but
It's implied. Anything else?
hate it.
Hate it. Mhm.
As an artist, it's unpredictable.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Sometimes it feels like a game.
Yeah. Monopoly game.
Like dumps. Yeah, oh yeah.
So. Right. Right.
Sparse.
Sparse. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Necessity.
Yes. Is a tool.
Feel guilty.
Yeah. No good words, you guys. Yeah. It is, it's intimidating, and it is overwhelming for people. And I know we're gonna go into some of this stuff, but my experience has been all the things that you guys are talking about, and that in America, money usually equals success, but we're all artists here. And so it's a little bit different. So we'll talk more about how we take that as a tool to be who we are and create what we create.
All right, so I have a quote here from Eminem. I'm from Michigan, so I figured it was okay to steal from him. I say that originally, I'm like a nearly native. I've been here since 92, so I'm a Coloradoan. Money is what makes the man act funny. And I'm sure he was referring to things like not having money makes you act a certain way. Pursuing money makes you act a certain way. You get too much money, you might act funny and in a certain way. But I'd like us to think about it in terms of how you feel about money in your business. So common myths that we have come across in the people that we've worked with, personal conversations. Real artists don't care about money. That one surprised me. It's kind of like a gap in the, well, it's, my craft. I shouldn't care about money. That's a myth. Of course you're going to care about money, right? Creativity and math don't mix. I can tell you, being up here, I'm a bookkeeper and I do art. I create. They can indeed work together, and they do very well. I should know how to do this. Did anybody take business classes? One person in this space took business classes. It is not typical when you are going through getting a degree, trying to pursue your craft, that you get any kind of business skills shared with you. So why would you not be intimidated about that? And of course, it's not just going to come by osmosis, just being around it, right? Not good with numbers, again. Not true. We can teach you how to be good with numbers. And it's all so tedious. And I will tell you what makes it tedious will be a way that my ex and I dealt with our financials. This is very similar to a box. I use fingers boxes, but I don't have that anymore because I don't do it anymore. We had a box marked with a year, and in that year, we dumped all of our stuff for the year. Right? It became tedious because on April 12th or something, we were opening up the box and trying to decide what was there and what we were going to need to do and report for our taxes. And in that case, it becomes very, very tedious. But we're going to show you steps along the way through our presentation that is hopefully going to give you some skills to set yourself up for success where it doesn't feel like such a big insurmountable task to take care of. Okay. So maybe you've heard of this guy. He had some thoughts on money and art. Making money is art and working is art. And good business is the business. And good business is the best art. So when I looked up what in the world did he mean by this, he believed art and business are intertwined and that commercializing art is a creative act. Pretty easy coming from a guy who made a lot of money commercializing his art. But I'd like us to reframe a little bit. Another quote he had was, why do people think artists are special? It's just a job. So how do you start to frame it as a job, but also keep the passion for your creations? Okay. So we are going to talk about why is it important to be tracking all of this? Why is it good business? Why is it good art? The best art. The first point is it makes you aware of what is going on. You can figure out the trends of your earning. You can figure out the trends and habits of your spending. So it gives you a full picture of what is happening. And then that way that gives you some confidence. It comes down to basic math. It doesn't seem like it when you're looking at it out here, but when we get in a little bit closer, you'll see it's just addition and subtraction for the most part, okay? And in that, you're getting some freedom. You know what's going on. So you have freedom to go out and create some more without having a constant cloud over your head of knowing, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, okay? You're gonna be able to pursue your creativity and passions with peace of mind. And this is, you have the facts. Numbers tell the story. You can have those numbers readily available. If you're not doing this, don't do this. You can have your numbers readily available for things like applying for a loan or a mortgage, buying a house, things like that. And in those numbers, you're removing the emotional choices that go along with that. Okay. Anybody have questions so far? Comments? Okay. I'm going to invite Susie up to talk about hobby versus business.
Thanks for being friendly faces, because now some of you guys are performers. I am not. I'm really happy on my spreadsheet or with my horse. Also, you guys are scary. So talking about slide.
Thank you.
Is defining whether it's a business or a hobby. And
first, we'll put a little disclaimer out there, we aren't CPAs. Definitely like talk to your tax advisor about what the best handling of your situation is and how that flows into your, your personal taxes and things like that. That being said, there are some things that the IRS looks at to determine whether you're a hobby or your business. And why that's important is that any money you make from your art, you have to report as income, whether it's a hobby or a business. Difference is, if it's a business, you can deduct all the expenses related to create that art. And so if you're reducing your overall taxable income, that's a good thing. Yeah, you can reduce, you can deduct all of your necessary, ordinary things that you need to buy to create your beautiful art, to what you need to do for your acting. I know you guys will get into that, talk about these things. So even if you have all the same costs to create and sell your art, if IRS sees it as a hobby, you can't claim those expenses. So tips for creating, if you want to handle it as a business, which I think, so for my photography business, it really started out as a hobby. However, I wanted really clearly to be able to track it as if it's a business. And so that when I become a business, which we have since then, everything is set up to be qualified as a business. Open up a bank account, keep all things separate in there. Keeping all of your invoices and records. Having a website or some sort of promotional piece. Website, social media, something that you're doing to promote your art. Tracking your time. Creating a business plan. That's not so much something that the IRS looks at, but basically they're going to see, are you handling this as a business?
Yeah. If you're self-employed as a business, why do you need to track your time? Where does that go, like on your tax form or any?
It's really just, I think in this case, okay, there's some things you want to kind of track. How much time are you putting into your business?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that's relevant, sometimes it's not, it probably depends on more specifically what it is that you are doing. And tell how much time is taking you to make a profit and make a certain area of a revenue. It's not an IRS requirement. It's kind of good business practice to have an idea. And let's be honest, like when you're starting out, you're not really going to do that, but just kind of being mindful of how much time you are spending. Sometimes people spend a lot more time than they realize. And so just having a data point for some people can be really helpful.
Thanks.
Be a W-2 employee,
For a hobby,
check,
for
I mean, that's a difference. If it's a business, then do.
don't have to be
Be a W-2 employee, yeah, yeah, you don't have to. Because a lot of your business of your art will kind of flow up into your personal taxes, but you still want it tracked separately on its own.
So we'll go a little bit down this. Most people, when they start out, they become an LLC, if anything, or you could just, I think you have, or maybe it's on the next slide, but you're a Schedule C, which is, it's part of your tax where you guys probably are all at. So usually the first step is becoming an LLC because it's so easy to do. You don't have to file a separate return for it. When you're a W-2 employee, you have an S corp. And again, we're not CPAs, but when you have an S corp, you have to file a separate return. And then you're doing payroll, you're doing W-2s and all those kinds of things. So typically, most people start sole member LLC or whatever, and then they file it on their Schedule C. You can have an LLC as a business, or you can just be an individual with your social security number tracking it. And there's a separate place where you can track hobby stuff, and Susie's gonna go into that in a second. And then when you grow enough and you're making enough income, if you stay in LLC, you'll pay a lot more in tax if you don't become an S corp, but that's when you're making like $50,000 to $100,000 in net income a year. Is when that can become a tipping point where you guys might have heard people talk about double paying taxes. That's if you don't count the S corp. So,
Yeah. We're a nonprofit, so
okay,
that's a whole different ballgame.
right, right,
Little bit for different for an organization, then, yeah,
right.
yeah, you're right.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't,
Sorry.
no, Oh. So basically, it's like, it's almost what the IRS looks at, and there is a resource in your packet that kind of lays out the 9 things that, the IRS considers. None of them are hard and fast, of course, but, basically, if you are operating as if you're a business and trying to earn a profit, there's a few things, like I said, separate bank accounts, tracking your expenses, things like that, that they're gonna wanna see. There's a safe harbor rule where they look at approximately, we have to have like 3 out of the previous 5 years of making a profit. So it can be very tiny, but that it's, 3 out of 5 years profitable. That's one of their guidelines. Again, with some wiggle room. So, for hobby, fun and personal fulfillment, business, you're trying to earn a profit. Record keeping for a hobby, don't really need to do it. Need to be organized and detailed for your business. Hobby, don't really take any to that tax deductions. Business, you can write up all your expenses. And it's really a proof of intent. Like, what is your intent? That's what the IRS wants to know. Is it intent to make money, build this business, and grow and develop it? Let's see. I think that there's any questions on this piece particularly? On the resource page that's in your packet, there is a link to the state, Colorado State, how to start a business. Go to that site and it kind of gives you all the forms that you need to fill out and some guidelines and recommendations there.
It's like $25 there, yeah, and it's really cheap to do that. So, yeah. If I may add some, onto that.
Yeah.
If you haven't established an LLC before, whenever you first do it, you may get a lot of emails and paper mail that claim that you need to spend 50 or $100 to renew it. Ignore everything that isn't from the Secretary of State, and they will only bug you the month of your renewal. Yeah.
Really good advice.
Yeah. I know it's like $10 and that's exactly $50 they want to charge you.
Let's say if you miss the month of your renewal, what happens?
You're fine.
Okay. $5 extra. And maybe if you miss it by a year, it might be 20. Or okay.
Just saying, no.
I said, by years, we might get disqualified.
I love guys that you know that.
That's so good. Come in.
So maybe, we've got all these great technology now, we can have a little reminder pop up in your phone. And that can be maybe one of our things we'll talk about later of things to do when you sit down to talk about your money, so. Yeah. All right, take.
All right, so now that we kind of know, some of you already have a business, that's fabulous. Tracking your income and expenses. I know Susie said you don't really have to do that with a hobby, but there is that piece where it feeds into your personal return. So having some knowledge of your income and expense. Income, is helpful. So let's talk about income and expenses. Income sources. The plus on your bank statement. It can be as simple as tracking sales or whatever you want to call it. Income. But is that really giving you enough information about where you're making your money? How you want to make your money in the future? If you've put a lot of effort and time into something that does not have great return, maybe you want to look at something else. So I'm going to list a couple of ideas here for ways that you can track your income. And maybe raise your hand for me if you're already tracking these in your books.
Lessons,
I know. It's. Anybody here tracking the money they're making on lessons? Awesome. Performance or gig. Okay. Commissions. Florida's in there. Merchandise sales. Fabulous. Licensing. Great, everybody's touching something. Art shows. Opera. They do, yeah, a stipend. Great. Other items to consider that you might not put on your forms, your income statement, awards, grants, and for our nonprofits and businesses in the building, in-kind contributions. You are required to list those as income in your books, but it also is listed as an expense. So it kind of washes out anyway. They just want to know that you're recognizing it. What that looks like is
Sorry.
no,
What is an in-kind?
an in-kind
Yeah.
contribution.
Yeah.
So an example of that would be, if you needed some legal work done for your nonprofit. And as a kindness, a professional courtesy, that legal team has written off the entirety of the invoice or part of the invoice. Whatever they've written off is considered an in-kind contribution. You also list it as a legal expense. Yes,
Is this only applicable to nonprofits? or-
Yeah.
Okay.
that part.
that part, just the in-kind contribution.
Differentiate.
Go ahead.
And how about the expenses that complete by sponsor?
That would also, yes.
In-kind.
It would, because that's money that you're earning technically, it's just turning around and paying the expense. Yes,
Do you differentiate same as cash from in-kind?
No, it's the same thing. And part of the reason why it's important to have that like a legal expense, even though you haven't spent the money, is because like a similar situation happens a lot is there'll be a nonprofit that gets lower reduced rent or no rent for an office. And then if that agreement ever goes away, there would be no way of knowing really how much actual expense it would take to run it. And so seeing that as part of the expense and then that it's being gifted basically helps you see really how much it would cost, it is costing to keep your business going.
I guess, yeah, along those same lines, so as someone that is just starting to do this and there's like this verbal agreement, like, hey, you can, like, we really want you here, you're doing something great.
Yep.
Go ahead and use this space for $100 a day for the time that you're here.
Right.
You would be making, what you need then is you need to ask them for like an invoice for what they would normally be charging, so that you can see that.
There's a couple ways to do it. One is an MOU, memorandum of understanding. And that is just really good business practice anyway, because then you have more than just verbal understanding of it. And then that would suffice, or they could send an invoice and show what the cost of that would be with it reduced to zero for how much you know. Yeah.
yeah,
Is there any benefit to an individual artist providing in-kind donation? So let's say I donate a photography session to a nonprofit. Do I get anything out of that?
that is a charitable contribution and that is an expense that you can write off.
Good, not that you would, no, this, I've heard mixed messages about it, about whether or not, let's say if I were to donate a mural, I cannot get, whatever the word is, money reduced from taxes for the service space, only for the materials. And then for, like, if I donate an artwork, I don't actually get to write any of that off on taxes unless it's been appraised, and typically if someone else donates it, because it's bullshit. Well, yeah, that's generally right.
Cause IRS is a dirty word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that input.
No, I think you're make sure that was still right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions before I move on? Yeah,
So for nonprofit, we also get cash donations, so that would be income too, right?
it would. Yes.
So
Yep. Okay, well, that was one. Now, the next slide is gonna talk about the beloved 1099. So this is income related, which is why I entered it here. You receive a 1099 when you are not an employee. It's called non-employee compensation. You performed a service, so if you're giving a product, you would not get a 1099 for that. It's a service. And previously and in 2025, would have had to pay $600 for a single customer in the calendar year. The footnote at the bottom says that goes up to $2,000 in 2026.
Oh, really?
Before you
So-
have to use.
Or you get a 1099 from a vendor or a customer that you provide. I know, everybody's super excited. You should all be tracking your income anyway. Right, yes.
Okay, talk to me like I'm dumb. Like, break this down a little for me. What? this
Okay,
1099
an example, let me give a couple of examples. If you provided lessons for a single student, a family, they don't have to give you a 1099. They're not a business. If you are providing lessons through an organization throughout the year and you've made in 2025 over $600 giving those lessons, they are going to give you at the end of the year a 1099 to prove their expense to the government and then also prove that you earned income from them. Another example would be if you're a musician and you've hired a sound mixer at your gigs, they are performing a service for you. So if you are a business and you have paid somebody else $600 or more in the calendar year, you are have to give them, all your vendors who earn $600 or more, a 1099 by January 31st of the following year.
But now 2,000.
But now in 2025, 600. In the calendar year 2026 for filing in January 27, $2,000.
Or are you gonna have to withhold social security?
No. Nope. They are responsible for all of that. Yes,
So is there anything, say, currently they're in between $600 and the 2,000? And it switches, should they just like not now?
So,
Sort of-
yeah, it's completely separate years.
Okay,
For 2025, it's 600 or more.
yeah,
And then you give that to them in January for their tax filing in 25. And then that's done. As soon as January 1 hits, it starts over and it has to be 2,000 before you need that. Yes,
So would you say this is better for small businesses and nonprofits or harder? Because a lot of times I'm able to show like, these are all of our people that I've given 1099s to. It shows where money's gone. But now I don't have, if they don't make $2,000 in a year, they won't show up on that little record there.
it will still show up as making contractor payments. It just won't be, attributed to a single person. You're still gonna have in your expense side that you paid contractors.
Okay.
It doesn't go away. It's just as far as what you have to legally report then in 2026.
This feels like a news flash. This feels.
Okay,
Yes.
really? Yours is better than all these?
But I feel like as artists or people who normally receive 1099s, now you have to track everything because you're probably not all your gigs for people you're not making 2,000 in a year. So now you have no records to help you at the end of the year kind of show that. You have to then be better at tracking.
So are you telling me you weren't tracking? If it was
also relying on some of those 1099s to be your step raise at the end of the year.
Yes,
It just feels like
yeah.
another burden on kind of.
I'm sure that's not what they were thinking when they changed the rules.
Right, sure.
Yeah. Yes.
And also if, for example, I made 3,000, well, since it's more than 2,000, but 3,000 dollars is not from one organization.
Correct.
Only 1,000 from is from the other organization and another 1,000 from the other organization. And I wanted to pay tax.
Yeah, so we're not looking at your income as a whole. You're only gonna get a 1099 in 2025, January of 26. If a single vendor customer has paid you $600 or more. So it doesn't matter if you have 10 vendors and they've all paid you $599, you're not gonna get a 1099.
So technically, do you have to report? Would you have to report? I mean, if this were like just off, if you were not an LLC or anything.
You are legally have to report your income,
Especially if it's not.
especially if it's not. Yeah, gosh. But we're not FBA and we're, what did you?
So what happens is for this year, and it's been this way for a long time, any organization, so we have nonprofits in there, right? If you're an organization and you're paying somebody for their labor, and it's more than $600, the IRS wants to make sure that they're claiming it.
Yeah.
And so there's a tipping point when, and that's the 1099 form that has to be generated. Right, and then a lot of people wait till they get all their 1099s to say that's what they're earning, but luckily, we're gonna cover how to track them. And so that you are reporting all of your income, technically, you should be reporting all of your income with it, and then with the big change, it's actually much less of a burden on the business owners, and you're right, it really puts the. I mean, you kind of should be doing anyway, but you're having to track all of your income throughout the year. Does that help?
Yeah.
This might be off track, but I just thought of it. What's the difference between the sole proprietor and an LLC?
This would be the not CPA part.
Not a lot, just more formal structure and really, I guess a little bit more, and I'm gonna actually go into that. Is the legal protection of keeping an individual, but you also are using as a sole proprietor, you use your social security number. As an LLC, you'd have a federal ID number, so it gives you a little bit of a layer of protection there.
Okay.
But the way that you keep track of the records and everything is pretty much, it's the same. Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry.
So in your packet, you have a W-9. And that is what you give to your customers who are going to pay you in 2025, $600 or more. Their instructions are included in there. One thing I would suggest is that anytime you move, you update your W-9. We have run into issues with people. IRS gets mad at us when you guys don't update your W-9, so they get mad at the filers. And then also, let's see, W-9. There are some customers who will not pay you until you give them a W-9. Just be aware of that, like, why are they asking? Yeah.
Are the rules any different than, say, for example, you're a service-based business, or just to give context, I do both murals as well as sales of art. So that is specific commissions that do not exist, that cannot be resold, that fall under a service-based jobbing thingy versus selling a product. Would both of those, if I sold something over 600 or later 2,000, should I be giving a W-9 to residentials or businesses, or where are those?
Your murals are a service,
Which is
right? Yeah, so that would be qualified for getting a 1099. So you would give those people a W-9.
gotcha.
As opposed to a piece of art that you've already created and you've sold that, that is a tangible object, not a service.
Okay.
But a commission without being a service.
Yes.
Okay, not that there's, I think never commission meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And the burden is on the business should be asking you for a W nine.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It's so like residential.
Their requirement is, I mean, technically, before they give you a check, they should ask for it so that they have that in their records.
Okay.
Does everybody do that? No.
No, and residential is tough, like if homeowners are doing it and they're not an actual business. I mean,
Really weird
if you're a nanny, you should be getting a 1099.
Yeah,
So it's a very similar, it's a household that has hired you to do.
okay, but, if I don't, the gut isn't gonna come after me. As
No.
long as it's reported, of course.
No, it is on the business owner. Okay, yeah, well, people who hired their servants, so. Okay. Yes,
I don't know if this is relevant here, but, at what point does someone become an employee and not stipend or person, individual con?
when you sign that W-4 that tells them that you are an employee and you fill out an I-9.
It just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
When you say it for,
Yeah,
like, for different things.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
and you're not getting a paycheck, that would be, qualified.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm stuck on the murals are a service. Does that mean we don't pay taxes on the income we make from that service? Because you don't charge taxes, like.
It doesn't have a sales tax.
No,
Right, so it's a certain tax and all that, we're very glad, yeah. Please let me know
No.
if I have this wrong.
You're an artist, I'm learning.
It's a game with really dumb rules.
Yes. Fire.
If they can't sell it again, like a mural, because it's stuck on the building, it's a service, even if it is a commission. If it's a commission painting that they can sell it again, then it's
It's a tangible.
but the commission is still a service?
I don't know.
Based on the previous question, did I mishear?
I guess I didn't ask clarifying what kind of commission are you referring to?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like, let's say,
Mhm.
a physical painting or a body of musical work or something that is brought into existence that can have a not a copyright.
A second owner or something,
Yeah,
then it would be applicable to sales tax,
okay.
right?
Yes, I think so. I don't know. It's all good.
They don't make it easy for anybody,
Okay.
just so you know.
But sales
Tax
tax,
is different than income tax.
yeah.
That's how we always use that. Like just deal with myself.
And that's,
No. But you don't charge sales tax for it. Yeah, okay, cool. See. Thanks.
are we all confused now?
Yeah.
Great, all right. I'm gonna jump over to the expenses side. What qualifies as a business expense? Advertising and marketing. Bank service charges.
Oh, sweet.
Yes. Dues and subscriptions, and this can fall under, or things that can fall under here would be your professional. I say magazines, but that just says how old I am. Online stuff, if you're an actor and you have to pay dues to belong to an organization, those are also a qualifying expense. Education and development, so if you're taking classes, you can also deduct those. Your business insurance. I'm gonna get questions on the health insurance part, and that's where you have to talk to your tax accountant, your tax person to understand what is your business structure and if you can write off insurance premiums. Meals. This used to be meals and entertainment, and the IRS has taken away, as I learned recently in researching this, you can't write off entertainment. So they used to be able to, like, I took this person out to a baseball game, I can write off that expense, and that is no longer the case.
And some people call it, right?
Some people have moved to calling it advertising. Yeah.
What if you're a performer though, and you want to go to a show for research?
Can you make that? Yeah.
Education.
Education and development. Some of these definitions are a little bit looser than others. Rent for a studio, a gallery, and a quick note. You can write, there's another version of a 1099 called miscellaneous, that if you have paid rent to somebody, they also get a 1099. And if you paid for your legal representation and they have made over that $600, $2,000 threshold, they would also get a 1099. I know, surprise.
Travel?
It's coming.
Okay.
Shipping and postage. And then, yes, supplies. There we go. Travel and mileage are on there. Yes.
On meals, is there some weird dumb rule about meals that you buy in town? Like if you do a delivery or a commission or something where you have to go somewhere in town, that doesn't count for meals that
There's a 50% and an 100% rule if you're out of town. I believe those are the 100%. The ones that are in town are the 50%.
And they change all.
And it changes, so yeah. So,
Okay, cool.
just confirming in that period that you have kept track.
Okay.
That went, yeah. 50% deductible. That means if you spent $100 in town on a meal, you would only get to claim or expense 50% of that, $50. If you're having meals out of town, you would get to claim, deduct the whole expense.
Can you justify actually anything eating in town?
Is it work related?
Or like,
Or if you're on a, like she mentioned, if she's on site at a commission and she's starving and had to go get some takeout to bring back to work, or
if it's rush hour and I live in that Denver, going to get food at that time or, you really want to come. Like,
it's work hours. Yes.
So for mileage, I know that there's like the federal rate and it's like a radius of 50 miles. Is it similar to determine whether or not a meal is there a radius for mileage for meals?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, especially along the front range, like
I know, right?
I think so.
So as we're talking, oh,
Just, is it true, somebody told me, that, this is about like rent, so you perhaps operate out of your home. And you have a square footage, like, you have maybe your basement or a room in your house where you operate, can you write that off?
the kind of rule with that is that you're using it primarily
Right,
for business.
cool.
Only if you're renting, or what if it's?
Now, in your home, if you have an office dedicated to the business that you're doing, or you have your studio space in your home, you can write off.
what does primarily mean? Because
Exactly.
yeah, it's trouble telling me this.
Exactly. If CPA, I can't tell you, the CPA can't tell you.
Yeah. So how do you determine how much to write off?
Yeah.
It's
Hard with this is, we don't really like to do taxes, so we don't do that. We know enough to get everything ready for it, it's just, I find it kind of boring. And so we're not souped up with all the rules, and CPAs are a little bit different. So you may have, your friend may have a CPA that allows them to do something different, or you might have some different information somewhere. Typically, home office can be like, if you have like an art studio and then you also store stuff in your garage, you would do a full square footage of everything. You would do the square footage of the area you're using and then do a percentage. You can do utilities, you can do trash, you can do all kinds of things. And so And it depends, the rules also change all the time, it's hard to put me every year, yeah, it depends on our administration.
Yeah.
And the different things that are happening with it, and, so I'm just worried that we don't have all those total answers for you guys, you know? And it's really important to find a CPA that you feel like is a collaborator with you and a consultant, and isn't just like, give me the numbers, like someone who's gonna ask you, like, are you doing stuff at home? And they're looking for those deductions for you, because it's hard. And you need someone who's on your side, who's gonna ask all those questions. And if you don't feel good about your CPA, you need a CPA. I would recommend interviewing a couple and seeing who you feel really good about. It really should be on your side, helping. You can tell it's like a passion of mine, like it's so frustrating for me when they're not on your side, like we all need all the help we can get.
Yeah. Can you ask CPA to set up your books or just to do your taxes?
Just taxes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And some
Yeah.
people here probably don't use the CPA to do their taxes.
It's okay.
And that's okay. I still, and maybe this is the wrong thing, just any CPAs secretly. Undercover CPAs, back when I was married to that artist, musician guy, we did our first year as an LLC and took our stuff to a CPA. And then the following years, we followed how to do it out of there. So one investment in learning how it should be filed is what we ended up doing. Everybody, people are shaking their head. Okay, again, not a CPA, but just throwing that out there as a thing. All right, yes,
The question of the travel and mileage.
yes.
If you are receiving a W-2 because you are an employee of a nonprofit or whatever
Mhm.
business, are you able to deduct my travel and mileage from that as opposed to if you were just a independent contractor?
You can do it either way. Yeah. You can write off mileage either way.
In your org, not from the matter.
Well, man. Well, I mean, I think it's more, my question's more geared towards like the artists themselves, like them knowing whether or not they can be tracking mileage, because I think there's been some information floated that like, if you are an employee of an organization, you're not allowed to take mileage and.
Well, if you're an employee, you can be an employee and then also have your own business as an LLC, and then you write the mileage off through the
Or
LLC.
if you're your own business, but like if you're an actual employee that's being hired by that business to do certain things.
I think that we struggle with, because there are musicians in this room that, like, we have we fill out W-4s, we fill out W-9s, we have just like all these.
W-2s, 1099s.
Yes, sources of income. And then we could be an LLC, we could also be part of a nonprofit, you know, we could have
Right.
all these, so then if you're tracking your mileage, like Norma was saying. I think we put it in the bucket of like tracking all mileage, no matter what, but then if you have someone saying, except if it's for an employee, but you're like, okay, only these organizations.
So like if you're
Have
getting
an
an
employee.
employee, you can't.
Yeah, it's like, how much can we parse that out and just say, I can't report any mileage for these organizations, but I report it for all of these.
I think, I don't know, like if you're an employee and you're getting reimbursed for your mileage, you can't claim your mileage on your taxes.
Right, because it only goes under Schedule C, like there's no other spot for it.
I mean, you can't double dip.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can do what you want.
Just be perfect. What's that? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Other expenses to consider. There is something called cost of goods. Has anybody ever tracked this category called cost of goods sold? Excellent.
Is that the cost of the material to make the thingy?
So it is direct cost, I'm reading this off, attributed to the production or purchase of the goods you are selling. An example I have on here is you bought rubber ducks with your band logo on it to sell for merchandise. The cost that you paid for those rubber ducks are gonna come off your income. Because maybe $1 of every $5 that you burned actually cost you money.
So yes.
Yes, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that you knew it was, we have about half an hour. Because we got so many questions. Questions that really loud, keep going.
Okay. Pass. Does anybody have a question on what is not qualified as a business expense?
Yeah. So. Entertainment, unless you wear a shirt that says your business name on it, and it comes with advertising, entertainment is not a thing.
Entertainment is no longer a category that you can expense.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
What about, like, for example, people who dance or perform and things to maintain their body's health, like massages or chiropractic sessions or things like that?
We do those.
Costume, I mean,
All of that, yeah, anything that you find for yourself. Haircuts have been, that was, we had a client who does not do creative work. Tried to put a haircut through, and that didn't count for his business. I can see where it would count for yours. So personal care. Ladies. A gray area.
I would look up, I would Google it and just try to see your industry and see what falls under. I would talk to people in the same industry and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, some people are gonna be really conservative and some are gonna be really creative and loose with it. And it's wherever, you guys do what you want. It's what, it's wherever you feel, just try it. Do it, well, check it, yeah.
If I may add to that, really great advice for me, if ever there was a question about and expenses. How confident would you feel defending this if you were audited and someone was getting into the nitty gritty? Would you feel like you fudged it, or are you able to say like, I bought this shirt, it's covered in paint, I'm not wearing it anywhere else, this is for this job? So your choice, but pretending that someone doesn't want you to have that money, yeah.
Good advice. Good advice. All right. So.
Yeah.
I know, I knew everybody would love it, right? We were going to do an exercise, but I don't know that we have time for it. On tracking your financial picture. So what I would encourage you to do on the page when you go home, this is what an exercise you can do, is to, at those bullet points, write down ways that you specifically earn your money. Is that commission? Are you just gonna call it sales? Like how detailed would be helpful for you to know? And then writing down the ways that you've spent money. And let's say just in this past year, don't get too esoteric. I mean, just take a year. What did you spend in the last year? And when, I'm gonna go really fast now, so get through it. When you do this exercise, put down a value next to that income. And in line 1, you're gonna call that gross income when you total it up. Okay. If you have any cost of goods sold, you're gonna put the total on the dollar sign at line 2, but you actually get to add a negative sign in front of it, because you get to take that off the income that you've earned to get something called adjusted gross income. Okay. With expenses, you're gonna do the same thing, put down an approximate amount that you have spent in those different expense areas. In line 4, you're going to total that up under the dollar sign.
Is there instructions? Cause I can't keep up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I will slow down, let's go back.
Record. Oh, okay, watch this.
Sorry, I got under the pressure of time running out. Okay, yes, it's being recorded to be later. And then you're going to actually take the value at the dollar sign of line 4. and subtract it from your adjusted gross income to put in the dollar sign at line 5, and that is your net income.
I think what we could do is, we'll create a separate video
Yeah.
walking through this, sending the link, I can share it with everybody.
Yeah, I can do that.
So.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, okay, that's great. You know, sorry, that was really fast. It was gonna be so much clearer if we just do it. And then at the top of that sheet, you're actually gonna label that profit and loss, because that is your profit and loss statement. Or income statement is what other people call it. So I know when I first started working at Tally, I had not been in the field of bookkeeping. And so I would see these profit and loss statements go by and like, I don't know what that is. But again, it's simple addition and subtraction. And it gets you your final number of what you've earned that month, that year, over the course of the last 5 years. Let's get it. Go, Beth. Your turn.
Wow.
Such, thank you guys. Next slide.
So we'll send a video so it makes more sense, but basically what we were trying to do is have everybody think about their different ways that they have income. And so if you made $10,000 and then you have some expense and it's $5,000, that your net income is 5,000, and kind of understanding that a little bit, so it's not so intimidating, but I think we need it into there. So we'll send it to you and slow down. We can even send a Google sheet so you guys can populate it in, and it'll do the math for you. You can do that. So thanks. Commingling sounds sexy, but it's. Anybody heard of commingling? They know what that means. Commingling is a really common thing that happens, and it's when you have personal and business expenses happening in business accounts. Or you have your business happening in your personal account. And so having a separation of these two things is really important, because if you get audited, you can really prove that your business has been a standalone business. You've been keeping track of your records, and that protects you with liability and a whole bunch of different things. Plus, as Peggy pointed out, now that we have the different rules happening with the 1099s, if you have a business checking account and you're putting your money that came in that account, and your expenses you're spending out of that account, everything's happening in one place. So technically, you could just go through your bank account, and that would show you your money coming in and your money going out. So organization becomes the name of the game. And honestly, if you just do that and then you do everything at the end of the year, you're just going to be really far ahead. So what normally I get the question from people is, well, if I have to buy groceries, what do I do then? You just transfer $100 over from your business account to your personal, and then use your personal card at King Soopers or whatever for groceries. And if you're short in cash in your business account, you move money over so that you are able to pay expenses and those kinds of things, and you keep track of those things separately.
So it's okay if you screw up as long as you fix it and document it?
Yes, technically, yes.
Are there recommendations for having an account with like local bank versus like?
No.
Yeah, national bank.
Doesn't matter.
So I'm an actor and I get paid personally, but I have an accountant, fortunately, who interprets all of the numbers and makes sense of it for me.
Yeah.
But is it advisable that I have an account specifically for my acting income, even though it is me?
I mean, I would, because the other thing that can happen too is if somebody commingles their funds a lot, and say they're an artist and they have a studio, and somebody shows up to their studio and they trip and they get hurt and they sue you. If you can show that your business has been your business, and that's what the assets for the business would be on the chopping block for what would be sued, then you're protecting, and this is a big reason to get an LLC, then you're protecting your personal assets, your house. But if you have a lot of commingling happening, then there would really be an argument to say that your personal and your business are the same thing. So all assets you own are potentially up on the chopping block as well. So a lot of benefit, having all of the activity happening in one account, then you can see all of your income, all of your expenses in one place. You don't have to go through and go, well, wait, was that for personal or business? When you're going to pay for something, you pick out personal or business and you pay for it that way. And then also you're not putting yourself in a place where what they call piercing the corporate veil is when you commingle enough that then there's no reason to have a corporation. So even if you have an LLC, but you have all of your money happening in one account, then we're going to say you don't really have a business. Everything is all together. Yeah.
In the example where we've been good, we have our separate business account and we have our personal account. Transferring business funds to your personal is considered salary-ish. What is it considered if you have to transfer personal to your business? Is that accounted as just a transfer? Do you have to document it as a profit?
Yeah, it's not a profit. This gets a little more complex on.
No, you're
Just
right.
a little, but it's very, we just don't have enough time to go on all of that stuff, and we talked about whether we should or not. When you put money in your account, like you've made your money, you've already recorded that you made the money, and then at the end of the year, you have money in there, you transfer it over, and then you transfer it back. It's not income again, because you already made it.
Okay.
So what businesses do is they'll, depending on if you're an LLC or S corp, it has different words, but draw, distribution, or an investment or a cash injection, they're all different terms, but basically they all mean the same thing. It's like the money that you have, you're putting in to float the cash, which is different than income. And then when you take it out, it all nets out to one number.
Okay.
Like the net of, I put it in 10,000, I took out 5, so 5,000 is what's left over.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So that's, yeah.
Will you go over the software on the tool after this? I will not.
And what softwares to use? I'm sorry.
Like quick look.
Yeah.
So will you be go over?
It will be very quick now.
Are you wanting to know which ones to use or how to use them?
I use both quick and quick look.
Okay. Yep. That's what we recommend for most of them. We weren't planning on going in and explaining how to use them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there an open source one that does not cost money?
I don't.
To use?
Those,
Say yes.
I really like Wave.
That's the one I read.
Yeah, there is subscription level, but if you're small enough, especially without employees, it's a great, there's invoicing, there's profit loss statement. I've been really liking it and it doesn't have all these stupid weird memberships that I don't know which one it is, QuickBooks. So yeah, Wave has been really nice.
Okay, thank you.
My husband was trying this, GNU, something like that. I can't recommend if you started it, GNU something.
Check it out. I think Wave's been around for enough years that that's what I was reading on the Reddit that people were very happy.
So, part of what we've talked about is, and I just think this is really important to remember that money is a tool to give you the freedoms, to allow you to be creative, to allow you to do the things that you want to do. And treating it as a tool, I think really helps not have as much personal attachment to it showing that you're successful or not successful, if you're a good person or not a good person. I've known a lot of people that have had a lot of money. Great people. I think we all could name a few of those right now. And some of us, we know people that don't have any money and they're great people. So it doesn't mean that specifically. So think how to kind of cruise through some things. So what I was going to talk about are reasons to track your money and your income and your expenses and all those kinds of things. And a benefit in doing it, besides having your numbers ready for your taxes, is having a profit loss statement. If you want to buy a house, you can show the legitimacy of your business and what you've been doing, and how those look can really give you a lot of credibility. And also another reason of tracking the different types of income you have, like if you're a musician and you're teaching lessons and you're doing gigs and you're doing band gigs, you know, tracking those different things help you understand your trend, and you can also find out what things are you that you're making money on, you know. Part of, for me, what I think is important is with the musician example, it's a good one, because if you're making a lot of money on doing individual lessons and you're, you know, maybe that isn't really firing you up a whole lot, but you know you make money doing it and you really love band gigs, but you don't really make any money on band gigs. If you can see how much you're making in these different areas, then you can know that you can afford to have a gig with a whole bunch of your bandmates, because that inspires you and it makes you excited and makes it so you want to go in and do all those music lessons with little kids and those kinds of things. So it's not always about making money, it's about using that tool and using the information to know how it's feeding you with being inspired, having grocery money, being able to buy a house, and all those different reasons. And then the awful word here, budget, which I know makes a lot of people cringe. Budgeting, I really would encourage you to think about it as a goal and not a restriction. And it's not meant to be a punitive thing. I personally look at budget as like a way to dream about things and then take it to be like, okay, what's really going to happen? And where do I want to be at the end of the year? And so with budgeting, I typically, when I'm sitting down with a business owner, is where do you want to be at the end of the year? And then work backwards. So if you want to end up with $10,000 of net profit, then you're like, all right, well, how many band gigs can I do to keep my brain and my heart alive with this? And then how many music lessons do I need to do? And then you can kind of create a reverse trajectory to figure out what you need to do every month or every quarter, knowing that you're on track with what it is you want to do. And if you get off from your budget, you get off from your budget. It's not, again, I just shouldn't be a punitive thing. It's like a measuring stick to see how you're doing and to have, you know, manifesting your goals and having those things just materialized and written out on paper, and then putting the numbers behind it so that you know you're on track with it. Questions? Yes.
Just to confirm, so when you're writing up a budget, that's using all those same income and expense categories and
Yeah.
just putting your goal or your projected numbers in there. So I feel like sometimes budgets are really scary for people to build, but they're really those same things that you're tracking.
Yes.
You're just putting it in a year.
Yes. Mhm. And maybe your goal is, I want to double my gross income, you know, than what I did. I want sales to be double what they were last year. So it can be a whole bunch of different things. It just depends. Maybe you're going to buy a house in a couple of years. Then it's like, okay, I gotta, you know, this is what I need my financials to look like so that I qualify for a house, or that I'm in the best position and I can hand it over and show my business is super legit.
How do you have, I'm struggling with how you have income goals if you're trying to run a nonprofit?
You definitely still need to have money to be able to run a nonprofit.
Right, but as an individual running it, so how do you have those same?
As an individual, say,
I mean, you're running it, but like you want to make money from it, but the whole idea behind a nonprofit is to actually like benefit
the community,
yeah, the whatever purpose
Right.
you have for it.
right?
And the grants that you're you know.
Right, so even though you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you're not supposed to have profit. We have nonprofits that have millions of dollars in the bank. But, you know, that's kind of goes down another path, but with a nonprofit, you want to have like generally 80% of whatever you're spending be for programs or whatever it is that you're saying that you're giving to the community as a nonprofit. And then you want 10 to 15% being administrative costs, which would be where you get your paycheck. And then the other 10 to 15 would be fundraising.
And I think it's important to know that nonprofit is a tax designation, not a mission.
Perfect, perfect, yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay. Now we are on time and we're next. Balance sheets, so. I'll just touch on this really quickly because. With a business, you have your profit and loss, and then you also have your balance sheet. And then if you're really focused on running a business, then you also have your cash flow in your forecast. So you know how much money you have to do all the things, you have you know how much money you're making and your expenses. And then your balance sheet is another portion of it. I think, based on all the questions, I don't know that it's super relevant, but I'll just touch on it. Because to truly run a business, you really should have at least, I mean, you have to have a balance sheet and a profit and loss. You at least have to have a profit and loss for, filing your taxes and those kinds of things. A balance sheet is essentially what you own and what you owe. It's like if you own a whole bunch of equipment, that would be an asset. There are thresholds. So if you buy a piece of equipment that's like roughly over $2,500, then that would be an asset. And then if you owe, you know, on your credit card, $10,000, that would be something you owe. So again, this is something that can be pretty complex. But we talked about that too, but it just didn't feel right to not at least touch on it a little bit, that this is another document you don't have to have, but as you grow, this would be something that you might hear. And just know that, so kind of just feather in your cap.
Just to add on to that with equipment, there is a percentage of, what is it? Depreciation, so what'd you say? Depreciation. Thank you. That's something too.
Yeah, exactly.
More than we can get into.
Yeah, so, and especially with our time.
All right. And this is pretty much self-explanatory. Your best practices are to keep your stuff, maybe not in the box. I know that banks, I had to look it up. My bank had 8 years of statements still available, but it's typically 5 to 7 years of records that they have to keep accessible to you. And even then, you can go back and request stuff. Separate bank accounts, as we've talked about, budgeting for taxes. This one was fun when my son started working for GrowHub, and he didn't realize that he needed to put some money away to make his taxes at the end of the year. So, you know, you get to a certain point, really doing well, you might be required to file quarterly tax deposits. But I'm guessing that most of you are falling kind of under that threshold and just want to set aside approximately 25% of your income to pay taxes.
Or the penalty isn't that bad.
Or the penalty isn't that eccentric. Right, yeah, maybe, I hope, yeah. It, I mean,
It's just how much you make.
oh, yeah. So the intention there is just that you're not gonna be, like my son was, stuck with a huge tax bill at the end of the year with nothing to pay for it with. Okay. Being consistent. The box works, people, but there are tools that we will get into shortly, but I do want to make sure that I give Susie a chance to talk about setting time for yourself with a money date. Ready? And I go, I even had my props, like this is how I do it.
Well, and it's all about intention, you know, and money can be fun, tracking can be fun. But as much as, sorry.
No, you're fine. It's coming, it's coming. I did a fancy transition.
I did, but, and we're set. Sorry, there we go. So it's a way of, back it up. I am a super like black and white, everything in a box sort of person, and I have this really like woo side as well. And I feel like there's a lot of energetics to money and your relationship with money. And so having a money date is setting that intention, and how you want to approach your money. And it's taking the time to grab all the pieces, schedule it, you set the theme. I have like sometimes a warrior princess and I drink from my stone goblet. Sometimes I'm a little more of a minion mood. You know, my little rocks, like oil or whatever, but I also have like, because I am who I am and everything's in a box, I have my personal money date that I do with myself, and that's on a weekly basis, do all the things. I have our family money date with my husband. We do that in a different place, you know, we sit down and have a glass of wine or a beer or something, and every 2 weeks, go through our intentions with our family finances. And then I have my business ones, I have my ranch and my photography business. And those are a little smaller, so I do once a month. I have this pretty little box. Not quite like this. It's got my horse pictures on it. And as my month goes through, I put everything in that little box for my horse business and my photography business. And I take my computer and I go sit outside where I can sit in the trees and listen to my horses going on the grass. And it's very intentional about, it's time for me to have a relationship with the money I'm making and the money I'm spending. Go through receipts, whatever your system is that you're entering and tracking things in, but it's making it less scary, having very intentional time, and it's not like this big thing that's kind of hanging over you, and you know what you're dealing with, you know that I didn't do quite what I wanted to here, so here's my goal, here's what I'm gonna do this next week or this next month to make it a little different. And then at the end of it, have a little celebration. What did you do? Even if it's just, I stuck to my money date and I sat down and I did my numbers like I was supposed to, that could be a celebration. Give yourself a pat on the back. Or like, I finally sold, you know, this picture that I've been wanting to sell, or, you know, I went to a photography thing and I met so many cool people and now I've been invited to, you know, a whole bunch of different things. So like celebrate your successes. And then make a plan for what's to come. So that's in a nutshell.
We're done the money day?
I gave myself a reward after doing it. Sometimes it looks like a nice piece of steak, or sometimes it's a Skittle.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, as we're coming to an end, there was a question about some of the tools of the trade. This is again where I show my age. Quick story. When I was married and we were doing this box at the end of the year on April something or other, I was actually taking out bank statements and making a list. This is where I spent on meals. Handwritten, mind you, ridiculous. So we don't need to do that anymore. We have tools to do that, as simple as spreadsheets. Some people might hear spreadsheets and go, what are you talking about? That's not simple. But there are templates that you can get online for free that will help you organize those. I did include a sample one in your packet, just as easy as this day, I made income doing this. I spent money on gas going here on this date. Super simple. And then you can move up to maybe you want to try an app like Wade. There are other apps on the App Store. Not familiar with all of them. You can take pictures of your receipts. They upload into a cat, or you tell it which category, and then you get the information at the end of the month or the end of the year. And then there is that option if you are making a little more, you have a little bit more discretionary funding to pay for an accounting software. QuickBooks is a good option. They do have a simple plan that is less expensive. It's not going to maybe give you as much reporting, but you probably don't need all of that reporting either.
How much is the simple plan?
I think it's under $25 a month.
For QuickBooks.
Yeah, it's a simple start. Can't do a lot.
You're 30. She's paying 30 for the simple.
Oh, yeah.
It went up. Today. Yes, yeah. And then another piece of a way you can track, there are mileage trackers that you can have on your phone. Or I also included a simple one you can put in your car, make copies of and put in your car. You want to do it that one? Yes.
You do.
so much for sharing the knowledge. Did you guys learn a lot tonight?
Yes.
You're gonna practice, and you have your templates, your packets, and we're gonna follow up with the video, and let's just give one more round of applause for Callie. And we look forward to seeing you in January. We're gonna have another workshop starting then. That's gonna be headshots and help getting ready for press and all kinds of good ways to